in the sculptures of Professor Tom, and the geometries in cold steel will open on February 22nd. And I'm looking forward to seeing that show. I would like to take just a minute. Since we last met, MJC received word that we were among the 150 colleges selected to apply for the Aspen Prize. And this is just an incredible acknowledgement of the great work that has happened and is happening at MJC. And if you haven't had a chance to visit the Aspen Institute website, I would just ask that you would take a minute and do so. In particular, the prize was established to recognize institutions for exceptional student outcomes in 4 areas: student learning, certificate and degree completion, employment and earnings, and high levels of access and success for minority and low-income students. And one of the main emphases as we apply for this next round of the competition is they really look to see that the institution is using research-based practices in making improvements. And it's just an incredible acknowledgement of the work that the faculty have been doing. And so it's my pleasure to be able to share that with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Brings us up to Columbia.
Good evening, everybody. We're looking forward to having you up at Columbia next month. So, you have my written report. I wanted to add a little bit to the item on the Veterans Center. You know, we created a space in the Upper Manzanita, but it turned out not to be nearly as big as to serve the students, and so we created a space over in what's the name of the building? Toyon. That's what popped into my mind, but it didn't sound right. So Toyon, and they're really excited about their new space, and so they're having an open house, the Veterans Club open house on February 17th. And if you come in the middle of the day, you'll get treated to a barbecue between 11 and 1:30. But there is the open house is all day, I think from 9 until 6, so that the evening students can also have a look-see. And then to add on to the accreditation, but also the periodic review of our processes, and including the mission statement, the College Council took on the task last week of beginning the review and possible revision of the mission statement. Of course, it's, you know, standard 1A is mission, and so we're not doing it this time particularly for accreditation, although it is a requirement periodically, but we just happen to be in the cycle to renew our mission statement. So you will be seeing what we think is our final draft either next month or certainly in April. And I didn't make the meeting. I was having a few health problems on Friday, age-related, I'll admit. But I heard it was a really wonderful, productive College Council with lots of participation and excitement about, you know, tackling the new mission statement. So you'll be seeing that here pretty soon. That's my report.
Thank you.
I just had one comment. I really appreciate your student success workshop, the little brief you have there, because I found that very interesting. I really appreciate having that there, and I could look over and see what's going on campus to help our students. Thank you for that.
And the Chancellor's update.
Okay, real quickly, we're still accepting nominations for the State Board of Governors Annual Classified Employee of the Year Award. So write up your nominations and get them to me, and I will forward them on to the board, and they will pick one classified person that we will forward up to the State Chancellor's office. February 17th. We're going to be having our safety meeting presentation. If I'm using the wrong terminology, John, is that the right terminology for it? Security awareness program, and we're going to be doing it for Central Services, and then after Central Services, we're going to be taking it out to MJC East, MJC West, and Columbia College, and doing a couple presentations so everybody can go mornings and afternoons. And I really encourage everybody to go. Safety is so important. And John, why don't you take 2 minutes and just state what you've done with this presentation and how you've put it together? You can do it better than I can.
Well, thank you. So actually what it is, it's a kind of an overview of security awareness just to let all of our campus employees and faculty members and everybody to get a chance to know what you might want to look for suspicious activity, how to report it. And then also we'll talk a little bit about active shooter and some different things that can be done with that. And then also what we're doing is we're pairing it with letting people know not just about, hey, here's how to report suspicious activity, here's what to do if you see things happening, but also to let people know and make them aware of some of the programs that we already have in place at the colleges relating to behavioral intervention teams and the crisis intervention team at Columbia, and how faculty members and employees can report if they see something where maybe there's a student that's having some problems. Maybe this is something we need to let somebody know about. We can reach out to them and offer them some assistance before something occurs. And then also we'll have Dawn Lilly, who's a counselor, has been a counselor for years, to be able to give some mental health awareness and anxiety, ways to handle anxiety, some advice on that as well. So it's kind of a combination, comprehensive program.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And this training was put together in response to a lot of the emails that I've received from everybody out in the campuses, because every time there's an incident, they go, what are we doing for our safety? And so I really encourage all your constituent groups and whatever to attend. And it will be offered numerous times. And part of the reason I wanted to say that is if you see one at a time at Columbia where you can go, go to it. You know, they're going to be the same training every place. So if you're on West Campus and you can't go to you want to go to the one at Central Services, come on in. Everybody's welcome to any of them. I am going to do, well, I'm not. Johnny and group are going to do, but I am going to allow the district council, we're going to put it on the agenda and do abbreviated version of it at district council for all the district council representatives in, what months? February, at the end of our February meeting. So you will get it there too. So anyway, it'll be, we'll be taking the show on the road. So thank you, John, for all your work you put into it. And we had last Thursday, we had a presentation to the board, and 5 of the 7 trustees who were here for an abbreviated version of it. And anyway, so they need to be safe too. Okay, and as far as accreditation, just one comment on accreditation. Wendy, I'm just really happy to see you're so into accreditation. Maybe we'll make you our accreditation ambassador. But anyway, having been on both sides of accreditation, I've led many teams over the years and had the pleasure of getting everybody's work to put in one report, and it's just a wonderful way to spend the weekend putting together an 80-page report on accreditation on some other school. It is a way to look at things from every side, and it does help you a lot when you come back to your own institution to say, whoa, we're really missing the boat here, or this is something we do really well. So it really is valuable for those individuals going out on those teams. So thank you. The biggest thing I can say about accreditation is participation. Just participate, and you don't have to know everything about every standard, but everybody has an expertise, and just participate in your area of expertise and show up on the committees and provide your input, because it really makes for a wonderfully comprehensive report. So thank you for that. And I had one more thing, but quite honestly, I left my notes on my desk, so if it's really important, I'll send out an all users email on it, because it escapes me at the moment. Thank you, Abe.
Okay, we'll have a bond update, and maybe Mark, you're going to make the presentation.
Oh, that was it. Excuse me. We had a tour of our new district building. The trustees did before we started the board meeting, and the cabinet did. So it looks like you're in an erector set. But you can see where everything's going to be, and it's going to be quite a lovely building, we hope, when it's done. So thank you, Mark.
Tom,
Lights.
Forgot I got my job back.
So while it's warming up, I do want to thank everyone who went on the tour. I hope it was informative to you to see the building kind of in process. It's really coming along very well, and we're pleased with the progress. And I think it's always nice when we can partner up with a local contractor, Acme, out of Modesto. So I think they take great pride in building projects for you, and are very happy that they're able to work locally. So with that, tonight we are presenting the photovoltaic array that we are proposing to put in the parking lot directly adjacent to the district office. This is the location. Right now, the site plan shows that large field where now we're building the new district office building just to the south of it along Blue Gum. The photo array will go above two double rows of parking and a single row of parking against the curb, as you can see in this rendered site. The project is total project value of $2.3 million. The expected completion, we'll be doing the work over the summer, and we expect to complete by the beginning of the fall term. It's a design-build project by Sunlight and Power with M. Bar Company Construction. I do have a little bit, I guess I need to provide a little bit of lecture. One of the intents of this project is to make the entire building net zero, which means that all of the energy that this building consumes will be equal or less than the energy the building is able to produce through these photovoltaic panels. So it doesn't mean that, obviously we don't produce power at nighttime. You can see in a graph I'm going to provide to you in a minute, we produce less power during the winter months, but the net effect of this is that we will produce and put more power back into the grid than we will consume with the office building. And what that really does, because the campus is on a single meter, is that it will allow us to actually offset some of the energy consumed by other buildings on the West Campus. So this is a graph, the green bar showing the energy produced by the photovoltaic panels. You can call it blue or purpley bar is the energy consumed by the building, and the net areas of those two, the green bar is in excess of the blue bar. So here again is the graphics of the actual per year consumption. Will produce 442,000 kilowatt hours of electricity. The building will consume 365,000 kilowatts of building, and that extra production then will go to offset power that is used elsewhere on the campus. Here's a rendering of the parking lot with the district office building and the photovoltaic arrays over the parking stalls, the existing parking stalls in the parking lot. Here's another view of it looking more towards the district office building. Another view kind of looking again kind of from the northwest and from the southeast, so you can see how the panels will look as you're driving down Blue Gum. This is an example of a similar installation that was done at a business park by this vendor in Palo Alto. So this is an example of what it will look like when installed. And then I believe I have a 3D fly-through here that will give a way this is going to look. So you can see we're kind of pulling back from the district office building with the photovoltaic arrays. This is the existing parking lot that's being used right now. Should have music. You can see it's also rendered with the actual photography of the sites in the distance. We're going back in, coming back from the north, traveling down the parking, an example of what it would be like if we were actually driving our cars into the lot.
Are those the old district offices in the back?
Those are the old district offices, and so the
You
one
didn't
thing we
take
didn't
them
do is we
down
didn't
yet?
show tearing them. Yes, yeah, we didn't render it to that extent, but We rendered our site, but not the adjacent one, so you won't see the old district office once we're actually done. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions about this presentation, or there also is an overall packet of information about the bond program in your board packet, so.
Any questions of Mark or comment? Yeah, go ahead.
Mark, is the overhang level, or is it slanted?
It slopes towards the south.
It slopes?
Towards the south, yeah. So it will slope towards the street.
More sun.
And what sort of expenses would you project in terms of just regular maintenance for these cells?
The maintenance, you have to regularly hose them off with deionized water to keep them clean. Besides that, the maintenance costs are not that extensive. It's been pretty well proven that these are a fairly good investment on district's part. The real benefit is that we're using capital dollars, and then we're offsetting general fund dollars for the energy. And one of the things I think we particularly appreciate about the project is that we can say the district office will not consume any electricity towards the bills that they're being charged.
And I agree with that. I'm just trying to get a benchmark. Are we thinking less than $10,000 a year
Yeah, I
in
believe
maintenance?
it's very modest, yeah.
Aaron?
How long will it take in order for the net zero effect to offset the cost of the system? Guesstimation.
It is always very tricky to get your buyback for public agencies. One of the two challenges that we have here in Yosemite that are actually really good things is that you get power from hydroelectrics out of the mountains at a very cheap rate, which means that your payback is very slow. And the other thing is that because you are a public agency, you don't get the benefit of the depreciation and tax benefits of installing it. So unfortunately, the buyback really ends up being about 25 years, which is the lifespan of the photovoltaic arrays. The real positive part about it is you're using capital dollars, and then you're able to actually leverage those capital dollars to offset dollars that from your general annual fund that would ordinarily have to go to, energy costs that now can go to staffing and students and those sort of things. So, but unfortunately it's not like a residential project where you get the benefit of the tax offsets and also grants and rebates, because they produce power, and actually they produce so much power from the hydroelectrics up in the hills that actually your local power, MID, is not incentivizing a lot for this kind of project. So.
I have a question about the district office, although I think it was answered by the pictures, but when I have tried to direct people to find this building, I say, look for the building with the flagpole.
Yes.
And so I did see, there will be I'm asking you to confirm that the new district office will have, that'll be the only flagpole dominant on this.
Yeah, so you see in this rendering, and it's not a very good one, but it's the first one I came to, that basically, when I don't know how you folks entered into the building, but the building has kind of a big kind of V shape, and then the board chambers are off to the, if you're looking at it from let's say the existing, their board chambers are off to the left, and the majority of the building is off to the right, and there's a V. The flagpole will be right in that little courtyard.
And be tall enough for someone driving down the road looking for it to see it.
Yeah, you can see in those renderings the tall spindly thing without a flag is actually the flagpole.
Right,
I think in the other renderings we actually have a flag on it.
But
right
it's,
there. Yeah.
okay. But
So it will be, as you're standing in the parking
won't be
lots.
next to the street.
Yeah, as you're standing in the parking lots, you will see the flagpole and be drawn right to that main entrance.
Okay.
I have a question. Are there any, like, anti-theft elements built into this? I mean, it's not going to be easy to come through one evening and dismantle any of the panels up there. I'm just curious.
John and Marty, would you like to? I think it's really important how many meetings we've been having about that. John and Marty, why don't you take 2 minutes and kind of address Linda's question, because we've had numerous meetings on that.
Yeah,
But we're not going to share everything because that's some of the vulnerability things, but they can give you an overview.
Yeah, and honestly, for those particular arrays, I'm not aware of anything in particular that's been designed to do that. However, ultimately, we will have some camera coverage in that parking lot that will have some motion sensors on it that will allow campus safety to be alerted if we do have motion out there at, say, 3 o'clock in the morning and somebody's looking around. So we'll have that. As far as actually looking at the structure, that's not something that I've addressed yet, personally. I don't know.
Two things. One, with the with the cameras that are there, any movement, any motion, anything that's out in that parking lot in that area would be captured. With the monitoring of that, it would be advantageous for security to understand what's going on. Secondly, the way these are assembled, they're not armored, but basically are armored. Everything's put in, it's screwed in, it's tight, it's set. It is very, very difficult and would take considerable effort for someone to dismantle it. It has to be built that way so that wind won't blow it off and tear it apart and so on. So the amount of effort, the fact of one-way screws and other things that go, the amount of effort to take these things off are significant. It's not something somebody would come in the middle of the night, sneak around and get away from. It would be discovered very quickly.
And honestly, in our area, if there was any component to that was more susceptible to being targeted, it wouldn't be the panels, it would be the copper wiring and that.
Okay. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Any other questions? Oh, go ahead, Tom.
Well, since this was one of my babies, I can't help but comment. I think it was 2007 or 8, the prior chancellor and I went over to the Silicon Valley and looked at a few examples. So this is very exciting to see. Back in 2007-8, the trustees had the same questions. You know, this has got to make sense. And I was a little concerned because I knew MID took away most of the incentives. So I was glad to hear Mark confirm that there is a financial benefit to doing it. So with that, I'm just very excited to see it come to fruition. You know, it's consistent with what we do, you know, our technical ed and being energy efficient, and just really seems to fit a couple of our missions. So I'm glad the day is close.
I am pleased too.
When we're all long and gone, that'll be your legacy, Tom. Yeah. Thank you. Any other questions for Mark?
When's the building going to be completed, Mark?
The building is going to...
Put it, you know, you're being recorded.
Yeah, the
Don't worry about it.
construction is scheduled, and the project is on schedule right now. That project is scheduled to be complete in September of this year, 2016. There will be about a month or so of fit up and move in for furniture, technology, integration, that sort of thing. So we're looking at probably an October occupancy date, October, early November occupancy date.
So the November board meeting will be in the new building.
That would be our goal, yes.
We can find our way.
We will have a flag there.
Yes.
Draw attention to it. Thank you very much
Some of us
for
get reelected.
letting me present.
That doesn't change till December, though.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate that presentation. Okay, Tom, lights. Or Ann.
Ann's much more.
Okay, we go on to the consent calendar. We have items 5.2 through 5.9. Is there any additions to the personnel? So everything is pretty much copacetic? Okay, we have 3 retirements. Ruth Cranley, 12 years, articulation officer. Carol Ellis, 12 years of service, admissions and record specialist, and Donald W. Smith, 11 years of service, professor of computer science. So congratulations to those retirees. If there's no items that you want to address separately, we'll entertain a motion to accept action items 5.1 through 5.9.
So moved.
Been moved by Tom Hallinan.
I'll second.
Oh, I'm sorry, Don Viz.
Tom.
Oh, Tom, okay. You looked at me kind of funny there. I didn't reckon. Okay, and seconded by Linda. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Okay, we move on to item number 6, action item discussion. The first one we have is 6.1, board policy, first reading. Is there,
I had a couple items on that.
all right,
On Administrative Procedure 2410,
okay.
in the second paragraph, It talks about shared governance, and I think the terminology might be more appropriate to say participatory governance.
Did we miss that one? Yeah, we tried to catch those in our meeting. What number again?
410 procedure.
Well, yes, I have that, but what number?
Line 7.
Line 7.
Okay, and then on,
And on line 12. Sorry.
Do you have that, Connie?
Got it.
and on administrative procedure 2430. I don't have any specific changes, but would just like for the committee to discuss and maybe talk about the last paragraph when it's talking about regarding without interference. The presidents would make all the calls, and I think that's a good procedure, but there may be times where a chancellor would have to step in and interfere by stopping something that could be materially, financially detrimental to the district. The way it sounds that it read to me, it says, well, the presidents will be accountable to the chancellor. Accountable makes it seem after the fact. And to have something that's more, if there is something severely a potential problem, I would not like it to be after the fact. I'd like the chancellor to be able to step in and offer advice.
Okay. We'll bring that to the next ad hoc committee, but just to let you know that this language is almost verbatim out of accreditation standards, and it's 4D4, so it's almost verbatim.
Joan shared that with me, but if we could add to it to maybe make it a little more clear, is what I'm looking at. And then on administrative procedure 2510, again, we have the terminology shared governance raising its head. So those were all the things that I had.
Thank you. We did have a few things come out of the ad hoc committee, unless someone else had something first. I'll run through those. So as always, these are coming to you as a first reading after going through Policies and Procedures Committee, going out district-wide for constituent review, going to district council. The ad hoc committee of the board did meet on Monday, and starting with 2340 agendas on the administrative procedure, line 7. About midway, we say, and sent to the local daily newspaper, and the recommendation was to strike daily and add an S to newspapers, so it would read, and sent to the local newspapers as requested. And the idea is that not all newspapers at this point are daily, so that was a recommendation on 2340. 2345, public participation at board meetings. Move to that. In the policy, first page, line 18, there's a typo, no action may be taken, and then again, may be taken, so we need to take that out. And then on line 29, and I'll start with 28, members of the public also may submit any communications to the board on items on the agenda and or speak to agenda items at the board meeting. We wanted to put in, the recommendation was to put after the word meeting, parentheses, C, Board Policy Administrative Procedure 2350 speakers, which is very closely related. And we do have a cross-reference there, but we thought in that space it made sense to make another acknowledgement of it. And then in 2355, decorum. Turn there. So what you have in your packet in the first reading starts out with uncivil, disorderly, or disruptive conduct. And we thought at the ad hoc committee, the group thought that there was maybe an opportunity to be more clear with the word uncivil. And so we looked again at the CCLC template, and they give us some other words. And that's what you had sitting at your seat today. Ad hoc committee member actually took some time and looked at the CCLC template and looked at what we had and said, you know, let's make this as a recommendation. So you'll see this in the second reading, perhaps after we talk about it some more. But they do offer some more language on line 8 to be a little bit more clear: profanity, obscenity, physical violence, and so on. And then the second part of that discussion at the ad hoc committee was an opportunity to clarify the word interferes with, which happens on line 7 in your packet, which interferes with the business of the board. And so we wanted to maybe clarify that a little bit. And again, CCLC helps us in their template. They say, so as to render the orderly conduct of the meeting unfeasible. And so you see that in this yellow copy here on line 13. And so we're not necessarily making those changes tonight because you've just seen them today sitting at your seat, but we wanted to offer those for you to look at and potentially come back in the second reading with some more clear language on this one.
I think those are,
When you state ad hoc committee,
This is an ad hoc committee of the board that looked
Board.
at these policies. Yeah, so it's trustees Flores, Martin, and Dean.
right, I know that, but I was just wondering, further down the line, do you have a committee that makes recommendations also on policy, or you just take them out of the Board of
So the
Governors?
board is the end of the line. But we do these started back in August, going through the process of constituent review. So we
Okay, the
started-
reason to simplify it, the reason I asked the question is that when we make changes at the ad hoc committee, are they again reviewed by the supporting at the bottom line? Or we just make that decision
Yeah,
based on what the ad hoc committee recommends?
There are no changes that are made at the ad hoc committee. They're just discussed, and that's what I bring here to you today. And so you have the option of making that decision to bring them forward for a second read, sending them back out, whatever you'd like to do. But
I just don't want to supersede the process. That's all I'm curious about. So. Thank you.
okay.
I wanted to just add on this one, everything from 19 to 29 is an especially good addition. It actually comes from a case in this area, so it gives us really good guidance if that ever comes up for who's ever presiding, that we go through this process.
Thank you. And if nothing more on that, I'll go on to 2430, delegation to Chancellor. And that is in the policy, first page, line 27, typo. Reports are submitted in we would add a timely fashion.
This is number 2430.
2430, yes, delegation of authority to the Chancellor. Okay. Next one, 2435, evaluation of the Chancellor. And that is in the policy. What the recommendation to add would be line 7. Currently reads, once a year, comma, the board shall conduct an evaluation of the Chancellor. And the recommendation is to add the phrase following the first year. So it would read, once a year, comma, following the first year, comma, the board shall conduct an evaluation of the Chancellor, with the idea that in the first year, the Chancellor receives 2 evaluations. So it's after the first year. And then lastly, in 2510, Trustee Riley pointed out that we had a few places where we said shared governance, and so we would change those to participate. And that was in the AP. There was line 5, line 7, line 9. So those were the recommended revisions for your first reading on these 15 policies.
I'd like to speak briefly to the decorum, as soon as I find my place here. I felt that the policy that we currently have in place which was last reviewed in 2002, before I was ever a trustee, had terms that we all might have different impressions of what the word means. To say that uncivil conduct or offensive language, I mean, offensive language is protected speech. Someone come up and can call us all jerks or idiots, and I certainly wouldn't want to hear that, and I hope it never happens. But I don't have a right to not be offended. So I took part of our old policy, and Connie sent me the template of what decorum is with the CCLC. I did a little bit of adjusting, but this is what I recommend, and I hope that we never ever have to use this, because it's strong. But if the occasion should arise, I think we need something more concrete than saying, oh, that was uncivil. You know, I don't think that protects us. I think legally so I would hope that you would consider that. You certainly have the right to make changes and offer them even at the next reading.
Tom?
I would say that's a good point, and I didn't catch that earlier, but that's consistent. The last two paragraphs that I talked about put that codify that case, and it refers to just disruptive conduct, so that would be consistent with that.
Everybody agree? Yeah. Aaron?
Just one word, and it's not really a big deal. Interferes with. Does anybody else like the word hamper? Because it hampers the business. Interfering can really kind of be subjective depending how you're looking at it, and I get we have a whole policy that kind of breaks that down. But the point is really anything that really stops the business. And I feel like interfering can kind of happen a little bit easier than hampering the business.
Where was that? I didn't know.
First line.
First line.
Oh, gotcha.
So I'll just interject here that in the yellow copy, we do in the second paragraph, in the event that the meeting is unwillfully interrupted, so they're not using that word interferes, right into, by the actions of one or more persons so as to render the orderly conduct of the meeting unfeasible. They did clarify that word, interfere.
And the connotation of tampering kind of depends on how you describe that.
I think he said hampering.
Oh,
Hampering, not tampering.
Hampering.
Hampering.
H-A-M-P.
Oh, okay.
Hamp.
I stand corrected. The only comment I had after reading all these anyway, but on 2100 at board elections.
That's in the second read.
Oh, that's in the second
Yeah.
reading?
Yeah.
Okay.
So you don't have to vote on the first reads.
So,
was on
for the
it.
first read then, as I went over the recommendations for revisions, you'll see that again in the second read next month. And the ad hoc committee will likely talk about this decorum a little bit more, but you'll likely see some changes to that based on this model and what we've all discussed here. Okay?
Okay, so the action taken would be that the Board of Trustees conduct the first reading on the following policies. So done. Anyone objection? We don't vote on that one, do we? That's just a
Just a
matter of
second.
forwarding the policy. Right. All right, we'll go on to the board policy readings of the next group.
That's where you want 2100.
Hard trying to find the green pages. There it is. Okay, board policy second reading. Items 1100 through 2330.
So there are 13 here before you for second reading, and last month in January, we made some revisions to 3, which are incorporated. That was to 1200, 2200, 2330, so those have been incorporated, the changes we discussed last month. And then there was one additional recommendation for change, and that is to 2100 board elections. And that would occur on page 1 of the board policy, line 34. So I'll start on line 33, including the cities of Turlock,